Captain Jake Morrison stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was so big that 50 Earth stadiums could fit inside it. Floating platforms held representatives from 47 different alien species. Some looked like giant birds with silver feathers. Others had tentacles instead of arms. A few glowed with their own light. Jake wore his best uniform. The dark blue fabric had small medals on the chest. Behind him stood 3 other humans. Dr. Lisa. Hayes carried a datapad filled with information about Earth. Admiral Rick Stone kept his hands behind his back, standing straight like a soldier. Commander Amy Foster watched the aliens with careful eyes. Today would decide everything. After 5 years of talks, the Galactic Council would vote on whether humans could join their group. Earth had sent its best people to make this happen. They had answered every question. They had shared their technology. They had proven that humans wanted peace. The council speaker was a tall, thin alien called a Zephyrian. Its skin was pale, blue, and seemed to glow. When it spoke, its voice echoed through the chamber like wind through mountains. "We have studied the species called humans for many cycles," the speaker said. "We have watched their world. We have read their history. We have tested their minds and hearts." Jake felt his chest tighten. The way the speaker talked did not sound good. "Humans are young," the speaker continued. "They fight wars on their own planet. They argue with each other about simple things. They act without thinking. They do not follow rules well." Dr. Hayes stepped forward. "Honored speaker, humans have grown much in recent years. We ended most wars on Earth. We work together now more than ever before." A representative from the collective spoke next. The collective was a group mind that shared thoughts between millions of bodies. "Individual thinking leads to chaos," it said in many voices at once. "Humans value the single person over the group. This is dangerous to galactic peace." "That's not true," Jake said, his voice strong and clear. "We value both the person and the group. Our strength comes from different people working together, not from being the same." An alien that looked like a giant crab clicked its claws. "Humans build weapons first, then ask for peace. Their ships carry guns. Their colonies have armies. This shows their true nature." Admiral Stone could not stay. "Quiet. We carry weapons because the galaxy can be dangerous. Pirates attack trade ships. Wild animals threaten colonies. We prepare for problems, but we don't look for fights." The speaker raised one long arm. "The council has made its choice. We have voted on this matter. The result is clear." Jake's heart began to beat faster. Lisa grabbed his arm. Amy stepped closer to the group. "Humans are banned from joining the Galactic Council," the speaker announced. "They may not travel beyond their star system. They may not trade with council members. They may not build colonies on other worlds. Any human ship found outside the Sol system will be destroyed." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Years of work, years of hope, all destroyed in a few seconds. "You're making a mistake," Jake said, his voice getting louder. "Humans have so much to offer. We solve problems in new ways. We never give up when things get hard. We could help make the galaxy better." "Humans are too dangerous," said another alien with multiple eyes. "They change too fast. They think too differently. They would upset the order we have built." Dr. Hayes opened her datapad. "Look at what we've accomplished. We turned a dead planet into a garden. We created art that moves the heart. We built machines that think. We reached for the stars when everyone said it was impossible." "Exactly," the speaker replied. "You reached for the stars without permission. You built thinking machines without asking if it was safe. You changed things without considering the effects on others." Commander Foster spoke for the first time. "What you call dangerous, we call hope. What you call chaos, we call freedom." What you call problems, we call opportunities. The speaker's glow grew brighter. The decision is final. Monitoring stations will be placed around your system. Council ships will patrol the borders. If any human tries to leave, they will face the full power of 47 worlds. But this isn't fair, Lisa said. You judge us by our past, not our future. You punish us for being different, instead of seeing the good we could do. The Council protects the galaxy from threats, the speaker sighed. Humans are a threat to peace and order. You will remain in your cage until you learn to be civilized. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. A cage? You think you can cage the human spirit? We can, and we will, the speaker replied. This meeting is over. You will return to Earth immediately. Do not come back. The human delegation walked out of the chamber in silence. Around them, alien representatives watched with cold eyes. Some looked sad. Others seemed relieved. A few appeared afraid. On the ship back to Earth, Jake stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, amazing worlds waited to be explored. Incredible beings lived lives humans could barely imagine. Technologies beyond Earth's dreams existed in alien laboratories. And now it was all forbidden. What do we tell Earth? Lisa asked quietly. Jake turned from the window. His eyes were hard as steel. We tell them the truth. The galaxy doesn't want us. Fine, we'll make our own way among the stars. But how? Amy asked. They have weapons we can't fight. Ships we can't match, numbers we can't beat. They have something else, Jake said with a small smile. They have no idea what humans can do when someone tells us something is impossible. Admiral Stone nodded slowly. They think they know us because they studied our history. But our history isn't finished yet. The ship flew toward Earth, carrying the weight of galactic rejection. But it also carried something the Council didn't expect. It carried human determination. It carried the refusal to accept defeat. It carried the stubborn hope that had taken humanity from caves to the stars. The Council thought they had solved the problem. Instead, they had just created their biggest challenge ever. They were about to learn why you should never try to cage the human spirit. Tony Clark smiled as his ship slipped past the Council patrol. The sleek vessel moved like a shadow through space, invisible to alien sensors. 5 years had passed since the Council banned humanity from the galaxy. 5 years of being told to stay home like children. Tony never liked being told what to do. His ship, the Night Runner, was unlike anything the Council had seen before. Human engineers had taken pieces from crashed alien vessels and built something new. The hull bent light. Around it, the engines ran silent as whispers. The computers thought in ways that confused alien scanners. We're through the blockade, said Maria Santos from the pilot's seat. She was small and quick, with dark eyes that missed nothing. Before the ban, she had worked for the Council as a research assistant. Now she used that knowledge to help humans sneak past their former employers. Good, Tony replied. Set course for the Vega sector. Ben's expecting us. In the cargo hold sat crates of Earth goods that aliens had learned to love. Coffee beans that made drinks better than anything in Council space. Music recordings that told stories in ways that touched alien hearts. Art pieces that showed how humans saw the universe differently than everyone else. But the most valuable cargo was information. Maria had contacts throughout Council territory. Young aliens who questioned their leaders. Scientists who wanted to share knowledge freely. Traders who cared more about profit than politics. The Night Runner reached the Vega sector after 3 days of careful flying. They landed on a world that appeared empty on all Council maps. But as they approached the surface, lights appeared. Buildings rose from hidden valleys. Ships emerged from underground hangars. New Frontier looked like a piece of Earth dropped onto an alien world. Human-style buildings mixed with structures designed for the reptilian Drakmari and the water-loving Nereid. Children of 3 different species played together in parks. Adults worked side by side in workshops and laboratories. Ben Tucker met them at the landing pad. He was tall and strong, with scars on his face from old battles. Before becoming a smuggler, he had been a soldier. Now he protected the first free human colony outside the Sol system. "Good to see you, Tony," Ben said, shaking hands. "We've got new refugees arriving every day. Word is spreading that there's a place where humans and aliens can live together." "Any trouble from the council?" Tony asked. "They don't know we exist yet," Ben replied. "But that won't last forever. We need to be ready when they come." Maria pulled out her datapad. "I've got news from the inside. The council isn't as united as they pretend. The Nereid republics are getting tired of council taxes. The Drakmari homeworld is refusing to send more young people to serve in council armies." "What about the big players?" Ben asked. "The Zephyrians and the Collective?" "Still in charge, but nervous," Maria said. "They know humans are moving around council space. They can't figure out how we're doing it. Some of them are starting to worry that they made a mistake." A new voice joined the conversation. "They definitely made a mistake." Kate Williams walked up to the group. She was elegant and smart, the kind of person who could talk to anyone and make them feel important. Officially, she worked for a trading company. Unofficially, she was humanity's secret ambassador to the alien underground. "I just came back from Drakmari space," Kate said. "Their war chief wants to meet with human representatives. The council is demanding they triple their tribute payments. The Drakmari are angry enough to fight." "That's dangerous," Tony said. "If the Drakmari rebel openly, the council will crush them." "Not if they're not alone," Kate replied with a sly smile. "I also visited the Nereid republics. They've got similar problems. Heavy taxes, forced labor drafts, restricted trade. They're looking for allies." Ben's eyes lit up. "You're talking about building a real coalition. Humans and aliens working together against the council." "Why not?" Kate asked. "The council rules through fear. They keep different species apart, so they can't unite. But we've proven that cooperation works. Look at this colony. 3 species living in peace, sharing knowledge, building something better together." Maria nodded excitedly. "I've been tracking council communication networks. They're having trouble in at least 12 sectors. Species that used to obey without question are asking uncomfortable questions. The council made their biggest mistake when they banned us," Tony said. "They thought we'd stay home and behave. Instead, we've been out here showing everyone that there's another way to live." Over the next few months, the underground network grew stronger. Tony and other smugglers created hidden supply routes between human space and rebel aliens. They moved people, goods, and most importantly, ideas. Ben expanded New Frontier into a real city. Engineers from 3 species worked together to solve problems none could handle alone. Human creativity combined with Drakmari engineering skills and Nereid environmental knowledge to create technologies the council had never imagined. Kate traveled constantly, building relationships with moderate council members and radical rebels alike. She discovered that many species had joined the council not from choice, but from fear. The collective had absorbed smaller hive minds by force. The Zephyrians had threatened to destroy worlds that refused their protection. Maria's intelligence. Network uncovered council plans to increase military patrols and crack down on unauthorized travel. But they also revealed growing dissent within the council itself. Some members secretly supported the human approach to galactic civilization. Breakthrough came when a Nereid science vessel sent out a distress call. Collective forces had surrounded them, demanding they surrender new water purification technology to the council. The Nereid captain refused, knowing the technology would be used to control his people's access to clean water. Tony's ship arrived. First at the scene, the Night Runner was fast, but it couldn't fight a collective battle group alone. Then more ships appeared. Ben brought fighters from New Frontier. Kate convinced a Drakmari patrol to help. Maria guided them through collective communication networks. The rescue became a space battle, unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics learned from Earth's naval history. Drakmari vessels provided heavy firepower with shields that could absorb massive damage. Nereid craft moved through space like schools of fish, coordinating perfectly without central command. The collective forces retreated, confused and beaten. They had never faced enemies who fought so differently from each other, but worked together so well. News of the battle spread through underground networks faster than light. For the first time since the Council formed, someone had successfully resisted their power. 3 species working together had achieved what none could do alone. In the rescued Nereid ship's captain quarters, 4 very different beings sat around a table. Captain Tony Clark, Colonel Ben Tucker, Ambassador Kate Williams, and Dr. Maria Santos looked at each other with tired but satisfied expressions. "The Council will respond to this," Kate said. "They can't let word spread that they can be beaten." "Let them come," Ben replied. "We've proven something important today. Humans, Drakmare, and Nereid can fight together and win." "It's bigger than that," Maria added, checking her datapad. "I'm getting messages from all over Council space. Other species want to know how we did it. They want to learn how to work together like we do." Tony leaned back in his chair. The Council thought they were protecting the galaxy from dangerous humans. Turns out, the most dangerous thing about humans is that we give other people hope. Outside the ship's windows, stars shined in the darkness. Each point of light represented worlds where beings dreamed of freedom. For the first time in decades, those dreams seemed possible. The Underground Railroad was becoming something much bigger. It was becoming a revolution. President Alex Morgan stood before the United Earth Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Cameras carried his words to billions of people across the planet. Today would change everything. "My fellow humans," Alex began, his voice strong and clear. "For 10 years, we have been told to stay in our corner of the galaxy like punished children. For 10 years, we have been denied the right to explore, to trade, to make friends among the stars. Today, I announce that Earth will no longer ask permission to exist." The crowd erupted in cheers. Alex waited for quiet before continuing. "I am declaring the independence doctrine. Earth recognizes the right of all beings to govern themselves. We offer friendship to any species that wants it. We will defend any world that asks for our help. The Galactic Council does not speak for us anymore." In a secret laboratory beneath the Swiss mountains, Dr. Ryan Cooper watched the speech on a small screen. Around him, human and alien scientists worked together on humanity's most important project. They were building something that would change. Space travel forever. "Think it will work?" asked his assistant, a young Drakmari engineer named Scar. "Alex's plan?" Ryan replied, adjusting controls on a massive machine. "It has to. We can't keep hiding forever." The machine hummed with power. Inside its core, space itself was being folded and twisted. Ryan's team had discovered how to make ships jump instantly across vast distances. Not even the Council had technology this advanced. Meanwhile, on the Drakmari homeworld of Creighton, General Lara Davis met with War Chief Gornick in his stone palace. The Drakmari leader was huge, even for his species. His scales were dark green, with silver markings that showed his high rank. "The Council demands we send half our young warriors to their armies," Gornick said, his voice like grinding rocks. "They say it is our duty to serve. I say it is slavery. Earth stands with Creighton, Lava replied. We've seen what the Council does to species that resist, but we've also learned how to fight them and win. She showed Gornak's recordings from recent battles. Human tactics combined with Drakmari's strength had defeated Council forces in 3 different systems. The key was thinking differently than the enemy expected. Your people fight like nothing I have ever seen, Gornak said with admiration. You turn weakness into strength. You use the enemy's power against them. We learned from the best, Lavra said with a smile. Drakmari's shield technology saved our ships in those battles. Nereid navigation systems guided us through Space's Council. Sensors couldn't track. We're stronger together than apart. Gornak stood up to his full impressive height. Then Creighton will stand with Earth. Let the Council come. They will find us ready. On the ocean world of Nereid Prime, Ambassador Carlos. Rivera walked through floating cities that danced on crystal-clear seas. The Nereid people had been master sailors for millions of years before they reached the stars. Their buildings flowed like water, changing shape with the tides. The Council poisoned our seas to punish us for helping humans, said Premier Akis, her blue skin shimmering with anger. They said it was an accident, but we know better. Carlos nodded grimly. Earth scientists think they can fix the damage. We've developed new ways to clean polluted water. It's not magic, but it works. Why would humans help us? Akis asked. You gain nothing from healing our world. We gain friends, Carlos replied simply. We gain the chance to prove that different species can work together. We gain a galaxy where cooperation matters more than domination. Premier Akis was quiet for a long moment, watching the waves lap against the city's foundations. The Nereid republics will join your alliance, but we want more than military cooperation. We want to build something new together. Back on Earth, President Morgan received reports from around the galaxy. 6 more species had secretly joined the human alliance. Council forces were struggling to maintain control as rebellions broke out in a dozen systems. The Council's response was swift and brutal. They declared all eyed species corrupted by human influence and began preparing massive military strikes. Council propaganda portrayed humans as a disease, spreading chaos through peaceful galactic civilization. But something unexpected happened. The propaganda started to backfire. Young beings throughout Council space began asking questions. If humans were so dangerous, why did they keep helping others? If the Alliance was evil, why did member species seem happier than Council worlds? On the industrial world of Forge Station, Council forces arrived to find the planet defended by an impossible sight. Human ships flew alongside Drakmari cruisers and Nereid destroyers. 3 species with completely different technologies had somehow learned to fight as one. The battle lasted 6 hours. Council Admiral Vex, commanding the attack fleet, had studied every known tactic. His ships had the latest weapons and strongest shields. His crews had trained for decades. It didn't matter. The Alliance fleet moved like a living thing. Human ships darted between enemy formations, striking weak points with surgical precision. Drakmari vessels absorbed heavy fire and returned devastating volleys that shattered Council hulls. Nereid craft flowed around the battlefield like water, appearing where enemies least expected them. When the Council fleet finally retreated, Admiral Vex sent a message to his superiors that would be remembered forever. These are not 3 separate enemies. They fight as if they share one mind, but each ship thinks for itself. I do not understand how this is possible. Dr. Cooper's breakthrough came at the perfect moment. The new jump drive technology allowed Alliance ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Council blockades became useless overnight. The first test was spectacular. The human ship Enterprise, carrying representatives from all Alliance species, materialized directly above the Council's main military base on Rigel Station. Before the defenders could react, 20 more ships jumped in. "Attention Rigel Station," came the broadcast from the Enterprise. "This is Captain Nina Brooks of the Terran Alliance Fleet. You are harboring weapons meant to destroy civilian populations. Surrender peacefully, and no one will be harmed." The battle was over before it really began. Council forces had trained to fight enemies who moved predictably through space. Ships that could appear instantly anywhere made all their defensive plans worthless. But the real victory wasn't military. When Alliance troops secured Rigel Station, they found proof of the Council's crimes: forced labor camps, biological weapons, designed to kill specific species, plans to destroy rebellious worlds entirely. The evidence was broadcast across the galaxy. Moderate council members who had supported the system out of ignorance finally saw the truth. Several species immediately withdrew from the council and requested alliance protection. President Morgan addressed the galaxy from the captured station. "We did not want this war. We wanted only the right to exist freely among the stars. But when peaceful beings are threatened, we will fight. When freedom is attacked, we will defend it. When tyrants claim to rule the galaxy, we will prove them wrong." The message reached every inhabited world. In the collective's hive cities, individual thoughts began emerging for the first time in centuries. On Zephyrian colony worlds, young people questioned their leaders' absolute authority. Throughout council space, beings looked up at the stars and wondered if change was finally possible. In his private chambers, the council speaker stared at reports of disaster after disaster. 23 species had left the council. 30 more were considering it. Human-led forces controlled strategic points throughout the galaxy. "How did this happen?" he asked his advisors. "They were just one small species on one primitive world." "Perhaps," said one brave advisor, "we misunderstood what makes humans dangerous. It is not their weapons or their ships. It is their belief that any being can choose to be free." The speaker's glow dimmed with worry. For the first time in his long life, he wondered if the Council's days were numbered. In space above Earth, Alliance ships from a dozen species formed protective formations. The planet that had been banned from the galaxy now commanded the loyalty of worlds beyond counting. The cage was broken. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Sam Miller stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's first super dreadnought. The massive ship stretched for 2 kilometers and carried weapons that could crack planets. But its most powerful feature was something the Council never expected. It was crewed by 5 different species working together as family. "Jump coordinates locked in," reported Lieutenant Zara, a Nereid navigation officer whose blue skin glowed softly in the bridge lighting. "We'll arrive at Centauri Prime in 30 seconds. All ships report ready," added Commander Thorak, a massive Drakmari whose scales bore the scars of a dozen battles. "The fleet stands with you, Admiral." Sam nodded, feeling the weight of command. 15 years had passed since the Council banned humanity from the galaxy. Now the Terran Alliance controlled 30 star systems and included 12 species. Today's battle would decide whether the Council's 1,000-year rule would continue or end forever. "Take us in," Sam ordered. Space twisted around the fleet as 50 ships jumped across the galaxy in an instant. They appeared in the Centauri system, like ghosts materializing from dreams. Below them turned Centauri Prime, the Council's regional capital and strongest fortress. "Council fleet moving to intercept," reported Ensign Park, a human sensor operator. 200 ships, including their flagship Eternal Order. Sam smiled grimly. The Council still thought battles were won by having more ships and bigger guns. They were about to learn better. "Launch fighters," Sam commanded. From the Alliance fleet, small craft poured out like angry wasps. Leading them was Captain Nina Brooks and her fighter Valkyrie 1. She had become a legend throughout the galaxy, the human pilot who had never lost a battle. "Valkyrie Squadron, this is Nina," she broadcast to her pilots. "Remember, we're not here to destroy everything. We're here to free people, keep civilian casualties to zero." Her squadron included humans, Drakmari, Nereid, and 3 other species. They flew different ship designs, but fought with perfect coordination. The Council had tried to copy this mixed species approach, but failed every time. Their commanders couldn't understand how beings who thought so differently could work together so well. The space battle began with Council ships firing massive energy, beams designed to destroy entire enemy formations. But the Alliance fleet didn't fight in formations. Each ship moved independently, following tactics that changed moment by moment based on what individual captains saw and felt. Human Destroyer used its speed to dart behind a Council cruiser. A Drakmari battleship absorbed fire meant for 3 smaller vessels and returned devastating shots that crippled 2 enemy ships. A Nereid frigate seemed to dance through space, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. "Their tactics make no sense," complained Council Admiral Zix from his flagship. "How can they coordinate without central command?" His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Lux, studied the battle displays with growing amazement. "Sir, I think they're not trying to coordinate like we do. Each ship captain makes their own decisions, but they all understand what their allies will do." "That's impossible," Admiral Zix snapped. "No force can fight effectively without strict command. Structure." But the evidence was right in front of them. The Alliance fleet was winning, despite being outnumbered 4-1. Their ships covered each other's weaknesses and amplified each other's strengths in ways Council computers couldn't predict. Captain Nina Brooks led her fighters through the chaos with supernatural skill. Council fighter pilots had trained for years to follow precise attack patterns. Nina's squadrons improvised constantly, turning each engagement into a new kind of dance. "Valkyrie Leader, this is Claw Leader," came a voice in Nina's headset. Claw Leader was Grotek, a Drakmari pilot whose fighter looked like a flying boulder, but moved like lightning. "Go ahead, Claw," Nina replied, while dodging energy bolts that turned space into a light show. Council carrier launching heavy fighters. They're targeting the medical ships. Nina's blood went cold. The Alliance brought medical vessels to every battle to treat wounded from both sides. Attacking hospitals was against every law of war. All Valkyrie pilots, emergency priority, Nina broadcast. Protect the medical ships at all costs. The dogfight that followed became the stuff of legends. Nina's mixed species squadron faced off against the Council's elite fighter wing above Centauri Prime. Human creativity combined with alien skills created a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Director Paul Kane's intelligence network was already at work. Paul had spent years building contacts throughout Council space. Now those contacts were rising up from within. "Council security forces are surrendering in Sector 7, reported Agent Lisa, a human operative who had been living undercover on Centauri Prime for 3 years. Local police are joining the rebellion. What about the civilian population?" Paul asked from his command ship. "Mixed reactions," Lisa replied. "Older beings are scared of change, but the young ones are dancing in the streets. They've been waiting for this day their whole lives." The truth was that most species in the Council lived under oppression. They had forgotten was oppression. High taxes, restricted travel, forced military service, limited free speech, all justified as necessary for galactic peace. The Alliance offered something revolutionary, the idea that beings could govern themselves. Dr. Emma Price worked frantically in the Alliance's mobile research station. As the leading expert on alien cultures, she had the delicate job of helping different species understand each other during the chaos of war. The collective forces are showing signs of individual thinking, she reported to Admiral Miller. Some of their ships are refusing orders to fire on civilian targets. That should be impossible, Sam replied. The collective has shared consciousness. Individual thought doesn't exist for them. It does now, Emma said with excitement. Exposure to human concepts of individual rights is causing some kind of mental evolution. They're becoming more than just parts of a hive mind. This development terrified the Council leadership more than any military defeat. If the collective could develop individual consciousness, if the rigid social order that had maintained galactic peace for centuries could change, and everything they believed was wrong, the space battle raged for 18 hours. Council reinforcements arrived from 3 different sectors, but each new fleet faced the same problem. They couldn't fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules of war. That the turning point came when a Council dreadnought targeted a refugee transport carrying families fleeing the battle. Before its weapons could fire, a human destroyer positioned itself directly in the line of fire. The destroyer was vaporized instantly, but its sacrifice was broadcast across the fleet. Alliance ships went silent for exactly 1 minute in honor of their fallen comrades. Then they returned to battle with renewed determination. Did you see that? Admiral Zix asked his officers. They mourned their dead in the middle of combat. What kind of warriors do that? The kind that fight for something bigger than themselves, replied Officer Lux quietly. More Council ships began to surrender as the battle progressed. Their crews had signed up to maintain galactic order, not to kill beings who risked their own lives to protect refugees. The final assault on Centauri. Prime combined everything the Alliance had learned about working together. Human Marines provided tactical flexibility. Drakmari warriors brought unstoppable strength. Nereid infiltrators moved through the city's water systems like ghosts. But the real victory happened in the planet's communication centers. Paul Kane's network had spent years preparing for this moment. When Alliance forces landed, they found the population already in revolt. Citizens of Centauri Prime came broadcasts in 40 different languages. The Terran Alliance offers you a choice. Join us as free beings, or remain as subjects of the Council. We will not force anyone to change their government. That offer broke the Council's power more effectively than any weapon. For the first time in centuries, people could choose their own leaders. The battle ended with Admiral Zix's surrender, but not before he asked for a meeting with Admiral Miller. The 2 commanders met on neutral ground, a small ship floating between the fleets. How do you do it? Admiral Zix asked. Your ships should not be able to fight together. Your species have nothing in common. Yet you defeated a force 4 times your size. Sam thought for a moment before answering. You're wrong about us having nothing in common. We all want the same basic things: freedom, respect, the chance to make our own choices. When you fight for those things, it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. Admiral Zix was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, perhaps the Council was wrong about humans being dangerous. Perhaps the dangerous thing is the hope you give to others. Hope isn't dangerous, Sam replied. It's necessary. News of the victory at Centauri Prime spread across the galaxy faster than light. 20 more species requested Alliance membership within a week. The Council's remaining territory shrank to less than half of inhabited space. But the real change was harder to measure. On 1,000 worlds, beings looked up at the stars and saw possibility instead of limits. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that freedom was worth fighting for. In her fighter, still docked on the Defiance, Captain Nina Brooks recorded a me. Dan Carter never wanted to be an emperor. He was a simple man who had spent his life helping build colonies on distant worlds. But when 43 different species declared him their chosen leader, he couldn't say no to beings who had fought so hard for their freedom. "I don't understand why it has to be me," Don said to his advisors in the new capital on New Terra. The planet had been built by Alliance forces as a symbol of cooperation, with architecture from dozens of species blending into something beautiful and new. "Because you're human," replied Admiral Grace Lewis, the supreme commander of the Imperial Combined Fleet. "Humans started this rebellion. Humans showed us that cooperation was possible. The other species trust you to keep the Alliance together." "But I'm just a colony administrator," Dan protested. "I know how to plan cities and organize supply chains. I don't know how to rule an empire." "Maybe that's exactly why you're the right choice," said Chancellor Mike Roberts, the first speaker of the Allied Species Assembly. "The galaxy has had enough of rulers who think they know everything. We need a leader who listens more than he talks." 20 years had passed since the Galactic Council banned humanity from the stars. Now that same council was signing surrender documents in the ruins of their ancient headquarters. The war was over, and the Alliance had won completely. The final battle had been surprisingly short. When the Council's last fortress fell, most of their remaining forces chose to surrender rather than fight. Many asked to join the Alliance instead of facing war crimes trials. Dan stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city below. Humans walked alongside Drakmari. Nereid children played with young Zephyrians. Former enemies had become neighbors and friends. Dr. Helen Park entered the office carrying a thick document. As the Empire's chief philosopher, she had spent months writing the new government's founding principles. "The Galactic Charter of Rights is ready," she announced. "Every species in the Alliance has approved it. Even some of the surrendering council members want to sign." Dan took the document and read the first few lines. "We hold these truths to be universal, that all intelligent beings are created equal, that they have the right to govern themselves, that no species shall dominate another, that freedom and cooperation shall guide our steps among the stars." "It's based on Earth's old democratic documents," Helen explained, "but expanded to include ideas from every member species. The Drakmari concept of honor, the Nereid principle of flowing adaptation, the collective's new understanding of individual worth within community. The collective agreed to this?" Dan asked with surprise. The hive-minded species had been the Council's strongest supporters. "They're not really the collective anymore," Helen replied with a smile. "Exposure to human ideas has changed them. They still share thoughts, but now each individual can choose which thoughts to share. They call themselves the cooperative instead." Chancellor Roberts joined the conversation. "We've got reports from across the galaxy. Former Council worlds are holding their first free elections. Trade routes are opening up everywhere. 3 new species have been discovered in unexplored regions, and they want to join immediately." "What about war crimes trials?" Dan asked. "We can't let the councils leaders escape justice for what they did." Admiral Lewis answered from her chair near the fireplace. "Most of them are cooperating fully. They're providing evidence about forced labor camps, illegal weapons programs, and suppression of free speech. The Truth Commission is making good progress. But we're focusing on rehabilitation, not revenge," added Dr. Park. "The galaxy needs healing, not more violence." Dan nodded approvingly. This was what made the Alliance different from the Council. Instead of ruling through fear, they governed through hope. A soft chime announced another visitor. Ambassador Carlos Rivera entered with a small group of alien representatives. These were former Council members who had surrendered early and helped expose Council crimes. "Emperor Carter," said the lead alien, an elderly Zephyrian whose glow was dim with age. "I am former Speaker Veln. I come to ask forgiveness for my part in banning humanity from the galaxy." Dan stood up, and walked over to the group. "There's nothing to forgive. You were doing what you thought was right for galactic peace. But we were wrong," Speaker Velm replied. "We judged humanity by your capacity for violence instead of your capacity for growth. We saw your differences as threats instead of strengths." "Everyone makes mistakes," Dan said gently. "What matters is learning from them. Will you help us build something better?" The former speaker's glow brightened slightly. "I would be honored to serve the new empire, if you will have me." This was happening all across the galaxy. Former enemies were becoming allies. Old prejudices were being replaced by new understanding. The rigid order that had kept species apart for thousands of years was giving way to something more flexible and alive. In the months that followed, the empire of the free worlds took shape. Unlike the Council's centralized control, the new government was designed around local autonomy. Each world governed itself according to its own culture and needs. The imperial government existed only to coordinate defense, facilitate trade, and protect individual rights. Admiral Lewis commanded the largest military force in galactic history, but it operated under strict humanitarian rules. The Imperial fleet's mission was to protect, not conquer. They rescued beings trapped by natural disasters, fought pirates who preyed on trade ships, and explored unknown regions of space. The economic changes were equally dramatic. Under the Council, trade had been controlled by bureaucrats who decided what goods could be sold where. The Empire opened all trade routes and allowed free commerce between any willing partners. Human coffee became popular throughout the galaxy. Drakmari crystal art decorated homes on 100 worlds. Nereid water purification technology helped desert planets bloom with life. Every species had something valuable to contribute, but the most important change was cultural. The Council had kept species separate and suspicious of each other. The Empire encouraged mixing and collaboration. Universities enrolled students from dozens of different worlds. Research teams combined knowledge from vastly different scientific traditions. Art and music blended in ways that created entirely new forms of beauty. "We've accomplished something unprecedented," Dr. Park told the Imperial Council during one of their weekly meetings. "For the first time in galactic history, different species are choosing to work together as equals instead of being forced to by stronger powers." "It's not perfect," cautioned Chancellor Roberts. "We still have disputes between member worlds. Some species have trouble adjusting to democracy. There are pirates and criminals who take advantage of our open borders." "Nothing is perfect," Dan replied, "but we're proving that freedom works better than tyranny. We're showing that diversity creates strength instead of weakness." The Empire continued to grow. Species that had hidden from the Council for centuries emerged from isolation to join the Alliance. Explorers discovered new worlds and new forms of life almost weekly. The galaxy was becoming a place of wonder instead of fear. On the 20th anniversary of the Council's surrender, Dan stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from 200 species filled the Great Assembly Hall on New Terra. The crowd included former Council leaders working alongside the rebels who had overthrown them. 20 years ago, Dan began, humanity was banned from the galaxy because we were different. Today, we celebrate our differences as our greatest strength. We have proven that no species is too strange to understand, no being too alien to befriend. The crowd erupted in cheers that echoed in 40 different languages. But Dan raised his hand for quiet. "Our work is not finished," he continued. "Beyond our borders lie unknown regions filled with new species to meet and new challenges to face. We will explore them together, as partners and friends." In the years that followed, the Empire expanded beyond the galaxy itself. Human-designed ships carried mixed crews to distant galaxies where new forms of life waited to be discovered. Each new contact proved the same truth. Cooperation was stronger than conquest. The Council had made their greatest mistake when they tried to cage the human spirit. In doing so, they had awakened something in the galaxy that could never be contained again. They had given birth to the idea that freedom was possible, that different beings could work together, that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it. Dan Carter ruled the Empire for 50 years before retiring to a quiet farm on Earth. His successors came from many different species, but all shared the same commitment to freedom and cooperation that humanity had brought to. The stars. The galaxy remembered the Council's ban as the moment when everything changed. What had been meant as punishment became the foundation of the greatest civilization the universe had ever seen. In his final speech as Emperor, Dan said the words that would be carved into monuments throughout the Empire. They tried to make U.S. small. Instead, we became infinite. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe approved of what its children had accomplished together.